Let's talk about posing. Posing is going to be very awkward for pretty much anyone. If you're not a model, you don't feel comfortable in front of the camera typically, and you're not going to feel comfortable posing or being posed. So, how do you get around that? You don't pose people. I've said this a million times, and it's like my manifesto. You don't need to pose people at portrait sessions or especially engagement sessions. People in love, for example, do not need to be told how to pose or interact between each other. People who love each other do not need to be told how to touch each other, how to talk to each other, smile at each other, how to hold hands. None of that. If they feel comfortable and you allow them the space to interact, you will get beautiful, meaningful images that will just naturally look great. Your job as a photographer at a portrait session like this is to capture moments, not create a fashion photo shoot. One or two shots does the trick. I know those are cool shots. I know they look great on Instagram. But ultimately, is that the kind of photographer you want to be? You want to be the photographer that does these like images that you could just swap in and out, the subjects in and out. It could be anyone in that image. You want to create moments where they're like, that moment can only exist between me and my significant other. And you can't do that when you're just posing them, right? So when it comes to posing, I don't want to suggest I never pose anyone at all. There is a place for some posed portraits. At a family portrait session, there's always a place for those formal portraits. And without demonstrating, because I want to do a future video where I take you guys along with me on a live portrait session, I do one of two things for larger groups. I'm usually doing a triangle or an alternating pyramids, and this will apply to like groomsmen at a wedding. So a triangle placement will be when you have either, it could be a V or a triangle actually. So with a V, you would have like the shortest people in the middle and the taller people progressively going toward the edge. Or vice versa, you have the taller people in the front, in the middle, and then you have shorter people descending on the edges. Alternatively, you can do a up and down posing structure where you have tall, short, tall, short, tall, short. Both work really well for for formals. I usually shoot formals with a long lens. I just blow out my background. This is where I like to keep it traditional. I have opinions about when you should, if you should always be shooting wide open and blurring your background out. But when it comes to formal portraiture, you should understand how to do it. It's really important. You don't want some weird non-traditional crops, etc. There is a place for that, but not when it comes to formal portraiture, in my opinion. It's really important that you don't shoot completely wide open. However, if you're shooting with a long lens, you can shoot, because of the compression, you can shoot at larger apertures if you choose to. But my rule of thumb, depending on the lens, depending on the focal length, will be groups of 2. Usually I don't go below 2.8. Groups of 3, probably I'm at f4 and above. And if I have a very large group with multiple rows, I'm at 5.6 and above. Again, it will depend on your lens choice, your focal length, etc. When it comes to engagement photography, I'm usually not really doing formals as far as like the two of them go, but I am doing individuals. I always shoot a headshot for people because that's a nice thing you can do. A lot of people do need a LinkedIn profile, and that's something you can do. I have some go-to poses for men and women. That's out of the scope of this video because I want to be able to demonstrate it, but it is important to just quickly learn some go-tos, and also remember, stick to a formal portrait should be formal. Understand how to do it.